I told you, Tink.
I know. I mean, I wasn't doubting you. I wasn't doubting Major
Hoffman
League Baseball.
was.
Hoff was heavily on the doubt train. I'm just happy that on our first year locally here on WFAN that we get baseball, and it's coming back on my birthday, BT.
It's your birthday.
April 7th was
the
opening day.
cream will rise to the top.
And by the way, that whole threat, Rob Manfred threatening not 162. Be quiet, Rob Manfred.
Get back in your hole, Commissioner.
Exactly.
We don't need to hear from
we
you
did it
anymore.
without
Get
you.
lost.
162 game schedule. I mean, there's going to be some makeups, some doubleheaders, and things of that nature. Some crunch.
Whatever. Just throw out the first pitch.
Whatever.
We'll figure it out.
We're here. We knew it was going to happen eventually. It happened sooner rather than later. And I think everybody's happy, to be honest with you.
Happy? I'm
talking
doing
about
somersault.
No, I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the owners and the players. Everybody feels like they got a little bit of what they wanted, and that's what compromise is all about. Now, they could have done this 50 days ago, but we'll take it now.
Everybody got a little taste, is what you're saying?
That's right.
Like Pookie with the pipe. Everybody got a little taste. I really am thrilled, man. I listen, as much as I projected positivity, and from day one I always said maybe an element of it was rooted in, inherent optimism.
Yeah.
But it was always laced heavily with pragmatism. I just always believed that they would find a way to get this done. But I got to tell you, to my core, I never changed my tune, but I was getting a little rattled inside. I'm like, man, is this going to continue to get torpedoed, whether it's by Scott Boras allegedly or now this stupid international, I shouldn't say stupid, but this international draft that, there's no way this is going to wreck the season when you've got Stevie Cohen, he's got money hanging out of dollars hanging out of every orifice, and now you've got the Yankees who, by the way, are getting ready to rock and roll. And this is where it gets fun. This is the arms race, Teague.
Yeah.
This is the Mets have already made their move, and I think they make one more. Maybe not a monster move, but the Mets are going to make another move. And now we get to the boys in the Bronx who've been kind of laying in the weeds, and they've heard it. Well, they got to start acting. I don't know why I always do that voice, but I guess to maybe differentiate like the other people, right?
That's like a confluence of Yankees fans all in one voice.
But that's not how they sound at all.
I know it's not.
I don't know why I do it like that. I don't know. That maybe I'll come up with a different voice at some point. But those dissenting voices that have been yelling from the top of the mountain. And by the way, they haven't necessarily been wrong. We've all wondered aloud, at what point do the Yankees kind of start going back to being the Yankees? Well, I'm here to tell you, it's today.
Yep.
And if it's not today, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean,
they're coming in with some big fish.
There's a lot of things they could do, whether it's Freddie Freeman, even though I think he's going back to Atlanta. Despite the fact that they didn't give him that one. It's 1 year. We're talking about 1 year.
Hey, 1 year equals respect.
True, but they offered him 5 years, and he wants 6, and I think that gets worked out. Rizzo likely is the answer, and then you do some other things at first base for the Yankees. But I think that's the exciting part of free agency right now. There's no time to do anything, and I'm surprised and that nothing happened last night. Now, Hoff made an important distinction when we were talking about it a little bit earlier.
Who's that, Hoff? Mr. Negativity?
Yeah, Mr. Negativity. I mean, you were over there handling your business in the other room over there. But Hoff and I were talking about how they couldn't do anything right away because it would have felt like, you guys were definitely talking during the strike.
Well, I said that. Of course they were doing that.
If a deal had happened, like, hey, the lockout's over. Oh, the XYZ signs here. Clearly, there was tampering going on.
No question.
So
there's always tampering.
They kick it down the road for a day. I'm sure we'll start to see a lot of these free agent deals start to come in now because there's not a lot of time to get this thing done.
Play ball.
Which is awesome.
There's tampering in our business.
Oh, of course.
I mean,
all the time. Every business.
That's what I'm saying. It's the way it is. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some unwritten or unspoken edict. Hey, guys, let's let this marinate just for a couple of hours. So at least optically, the way it's presented, to your point, that it doesn't look as if there were discussions being had behind closed doors. But not only were there discussions, in my opinion, there was just an overt exchange of numbers.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's it going to take for this to happen and for this guy to come here? How many years? What's the AAV? I mean, you've got to be beyond pumped because there are very few years. If you trace back to the 70s, for sure, the Mets obviously come into existence in the 60s, but the 70s where the Mets were horrendous. And, the Yankees early in the 70s were horrendous, that That dynasty obviously dead at that point, and then Nettles and Munson and those guys come. And then obviously you go back-to-back in 77, 78. You get back to the World Series in 81. And then the Mets have this rise with Keith Hernandez in 83 coming midseason. And, obviously Doc and Darryl. And then you get Gary Carter. You win the championship. You should have won another one in 88, but you didn't. But the Mets were dominant, obviously. We know that story. The Yankees just smacked the hell out of the ball. They had no arms. They had Mattingly. They had Rickey. They had Winfield. They did have Guidry as well. Randolph. But they just didn't have the aces to take them to the postseason despite winning 90 games all the time. And then there's just a few random years where both teams were really powerful. And, of course, one of those years would have been 2000 where we had to settle business and smack the little brother around and let him know that there was no way they were going to win the World Series against us. But that was fun for us. And then, obviously, the Mets get into the World Series in 2015. Yankees winning it in 2009. Some wild cards and some other appearances splashed here and there. But this is the kind of thing that galvanizes an entire city, gets us whatever residue is lingering from the pandemic, the real-world pain, the Ukraine, the inflation, all the things we deal with. This is not a temporary respite from that. This is the summer starts today.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And baseball should be I think it's going to be interesting to see some of these changes as they happen in real time, both at the start of the season and once you get to the postseason. You run through a couple of these, BT. The bases are bigger.
Yes.
3 inches.
Did you see the picture that I sent you guys about Altuve?
I did.
Like, is that too insensitive to put on social media? Who knows anymore?
Yeah, probably.
I've got this picture of a base.
It looks like an ant.
Yeah, it's like Altuve, like clinging to the big base, and it's about the size of an ant. I'll put it up. It's actually pretty funny.
Universal DH, which is fantastic. And then you get to the postseason.
9-inning doubleheaders, by the way.
9-inning doubleheaders,
getting away from the
100%, which is great. Makes baseball feel whole, even though those doubleheaders are going to feel long as hell throughout the day. The postseason is expanded to 12 teams, the two top teams in each league get a bye, and then the next wild card, at least the top wild card and the last division winner, they will play. So, or at least they'll host home games. So it's exciting with the postseason as well. Then you get to the CBT, which is really where all the brass tacks come in, because the Stevie Cohen tax, as it's been called a little bit, with the now a new threshold, which is $60 million over the first threshold, is something that people are going to look at. Now, Steve Cohen and the Mets are already over the first two.
The Stevie tax.
They're already over the first two. The question is, are they going to get to the third one?
The Stevie surcharge.
So we'll see. But
of course they are. He doesn't care about that. Not I'm not saying they go out and they spend.
It's going to go to $290 this year.
Listen, wow. This man, Teak. This man is a real Mets fan. Mm-hmm. He is hell-bent on changing the narrative in the city, which is why Met fans are so, first of all, changing the narrative with his own organization. Yeah. And then once that happened, and that's actually already happened based on the spending that's already occurred, and now the next step for Stevie is to elevate the Mets to a place where they look down at the Yankees, both financially and both from a success point on the field. Now, whether or not that happens, who knows? But when you start the season, assuming DeGrom is fully healthy, with DeGrom and Scherzer, I mean, if they make the requisite 30-something starts and the Mets don't win 94, 95, 96 games minimally, it's a colossal underachievement. So it is officially on. Yankees, how about this? We open up now. Yankees are at home rather than starting on the road because the games that were canceled or now postponed. The first 3 games, I believe, will be pushed to the end of the season, and then the other 3 will be dispersed throughout the season as doubleheaders.
That's right.
Each of which will be 9 innings, as I said before. So the Yankees, rather than starting on the road in the Bronx, April 7 against the Red Sox, will be doing the show out there. I'm sure Boomer and Gio will be out there. Carton and Roberts out there at the Hard Rock. I believe we'll be at the Hard Rock. And then the Mets, who are now in D.C. against the Nationals, they will be on the road. So this is just a great time, and I am as fired up as I've been since we started here at the Fan, outside of the first words we said into this microphone. I am legitimately pumped, which I needed because last night was the worst St. John's loss I've ever seen that I've ever been a part of.
I did not watch it on TV, BT. I did listen to it on the St. John's app because I was basketball overload. I'm sure you saw my tweet last night.
I did see the tweet when I was going.
It's so much going on. I watched the the Nets take on the Sixers, and they destroyed them, which was so interesting. I was waiting for Virginia Tech to finish so I could watch my Cavaliers, and I'm much chagrined I did, and they got blown out by North Carolina. So I was listening to St. John's. and I tuned in right when they had a 15-point lead. I was like, man, St. John's going to mess around and beat Villanova. My on-air prediction is going to be right for BT. And they systematically lost it. Not like they played horrible.
No, they didn't execute when you had to.
That's right.
I mean, that's why Villanova's Villanova, and that's why St. John's is trying to get there. Absolutely gut-wrenching loss, no doubt. Tiki and Tierney here on the Fan inside the Town Fair Tire studio. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest prices on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.
And the Mets start on the road, BT, but Jackie Robinson Day is the home opener for the Mets here in City. So it's
nice.
Great.
Who are they playing
April
that game?
15th. Who are they playing?
The Diamondbacks.
They're playing the Diamondbacks.
It's a nice, easy
April
win.
15, which is
serve
great.
Up the D-
but it's great.
It's great. Like homecoming weekend. Here come the D-backs.
That's right. We talked about that date, the importance of it. The Mets will be home on Jackie Robinson Day, which is great.
That's very good. 877-337-6666. We'll get to the Nets Harden stuff later. But I'll say this: I don't think I'll ever root. I don't know that I. Well, I know I'll never root for the Nets, but I got to tell you, like last night, I wanted the Nets to beat the Sixers, and I wanted Harden to play poorly.
And he did.
And by the way, if anybody's counting, that's 3 straight dubs from your boy Sharp Tierney making you lose. Just letting everybody know.
There you go.
I told you, I even said maybe mess around with that money line. Remember I said that?
That's right.
I did say maybe mess around with the ML.
They looked kind of unbeatable last night.
They took it personally, which is a good sign.
Agreed.
Glenn is in Teaneck on the Fan with Tiki and Tierney. What's up, Glenn? How you doing today? Glenn?
Are you there, Glenn?
Yeah, Tiki, I met you a long time ago at Stop and Shop, and you signed my napkin.
The bobblehead.
The bobblehead who looks like Charlie Villanueva from UConn. Do you remember that, Tiki?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Appreciate you, Glenn. Call back.
Thanks, Glenn.
We
Appreciate that. Can you have a worse time to have phone issues?
I know.
Maybe the baseball season's really not going to start,
No,
Tiki.
it is going to start.
Of course it is. By the way, this is the first time I'm actually wearing a baseball cap. Usually I wear the skull cap, and I get a little shrapnel on social media, which I just disregard and wear it anyway.
It's all good.
But today, we've got the 8U Knights going to be on the turf field. We're going outside today. Oh, those fungos are going to be ripped out. I'm going to rip the fungos. Here's the move the Yankees need to make. All right? Now, I really... And I'm going to have to reposition. I'm going to have to pivot here because I'm going to tell you what I think they will do rather than what I would do. Because what I told you 3 weeks ago, what I would do, I would trade for Olsen, who's 27.
Yeah.
Rather than give Freddie Freeman at the age of 32, going on 33, 5 or 6 years and big money, even though he's a great locker room guy, great fielder, world champion, great hitter, blah, 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 lefty, short porch, boom, boom. I would go Olsen at first, and then obviously Gleyber Torres at second. I would get somebody who can field it short, whether it's, and I know Simmons was awful with the bat last year, but just somebody that can catch. And I would go DJ at third. Obviously, you're stuck with Sanchez for another year.
Yep.
The outfield's the outfield, right? What I think they're going to do is, I know they're going to go very heavy after Freeman. 50-50, they get him. If they don't get Freeman, I believe they then pivot to Rizzo, as you said before.
Yep.
And then I really think they get the shortstop.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Either Correa or probably Correa more than Story. Go ahead, Zeke, I'm sorry.
You want Olsen. That's what you
I
want.
do. He's 27.
I agree.
I like him.
But there's only 1 year control. That's the challenge with Olsen.
Okay.
And I think the one
he ain't
thing...
getting $30 million like Freeman's going to command.
True, 30, and Rizzo's probably about 21, 22 or so.
I don't think Rizzo's going to get that much per year.
But
he's not worth it.
I'm just looking. I use Spotrax, whatever it is, market value, projected
he is not
market
worth
value.
$20 million a year.
He's probably
lost
not.
a little bit.
He's probably not.
Rizzo.
He did hit 22 home runs last year. Didn't strike out a ton, 87, I think, on the year.
I like him. He's not what he was.
True.
Not even close.
True. But he does have the experience of being on a championship team.
That's true.
And I think that's important for this Yankees squad. I mean, there's some good leaders on this team. And I'm not saying that, Judge and Giancarlo and all these guys aren't good leaders, but they need some guys with postseason success.
And guys with a little presence.
That's right.
Like a little verbal presence.
Who are going to dominate.
Light you up a little bit. If you go, where's the O'Neal?
Yes, when things go wrong.
Yes.
They need that.
Doesn't every team need that?
Without a doubt. Now, that guy doesn't necessarily have to be your best player, but you need that guy.
Yeah, and it can't be Brett Gardner again, with all due respect.
I agree. I love Brett Gardner.
No, I do too.
I agree with you.
Okay. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan. It is a day to celebrate. Yanks back, Mets back. First move. I mean, these dominoes are going to be flying around. I would be stunned if we don't get, and I'm not saying it'd be for the Yankees, but if there is not a massive free agent signing or trade announced during our show.
Agreed.
Would be absolutely stunned. So, Dove, let's fix the phones. All right, let's fix them. People want to talk. We want to listen. Yanks and Mets are back. All good on the Fan.